Playing the game better than Team Freedom is no small task, but I guarantee SpaceStation are up to the challenge. When I talked to Equinox, he said that, it's been a rough part for them. They have a lot of changes, a lot of things that they're going through. They've went through some role swaps that Lutano mentioned in their last couple of series, and then they were back to it when it didn't quite work out for them. And I asked Equinox why. He said it was just them still trying to figure things out, figure out shot calling. It's taking them time to come into their own as a team.
It is, and coming into last weekend, we actually said getting some stability on the front line in their hero pools was kind of the biggest thing. We saw the role swap. When they came back to their original roles, they stuck within their hero pool, and they actually looked a lot better, and I think that's something for them. They've actually played 47 different heroes so far. That is an astronomical number when it comes to heroes played. Throughout an entire season, we kind of see that with some meta shifts right around that 48 to 50 mark, but generally teams tend to sit between that 35 to 40 mark. Your top higher teams, right around that lower 30.
Yeah, we'll see if they do any further role swaps, if they stick within that. It did feel like it was just so much stronger of a showing for them versus Tempo, especially on the game that they won, which was Infernal Shrines, and then they ended up doing exceptionally well on Towers of Doom with an Abathur composition. So we have Cursed Hollow as the first game that is picked by SpaceStation Gaming.
Yeah, and this gives us the old, when we saw them take a game on this map, they used a Lost Viking strategy. This is one of those maps where you can kind of flex it out and really throw your opponents off. I imagine that Team Freedom is very much well aware of that, who's looking to try and win the macro game, and as they said during their interview. So we'll see if that can actually play out in their favor, and if you are going to try and out macro, maybe bring the Vikings in, maybe kind of mix it up a little bit and see if you can take advantage of that.
Both games on Cursed, SpaceStation did something funky involving an Illidan. One was the Vikings game, one was Dahaka main tank. So Freedom's got to be keeping an eye on these kinds of things. One amazing thing about Team Freedom, though, is that Freedom have kind of run the gauntlet when it comes to people trying to throw different strategies at them and see what can catch them off guard. And I'm talking about a Cho'Gall. I'm talking about multiple melee compositions that Tempo did. Freedom had some awesome drafting and mid-draft change-ups to make sure that they could keep up and have what was necessary to deal with those comps, and they executed them well. That was key. We've got bans on HGC and Abathur. This is going to be a Lutano hero because in every game except one that Team Freedom has played so far, they have picked Lutano. Lutano's hero, and he's got anything and everything that he wants. It could be the Genji, it could be the Hanzo, it could be the Greymane.
Wow.
They changed. That's a huge change for them.
That is a major change for them. Do you think that it could just be the fact that because ETC and Abathur were banned out, they didn't feel as, I guess, pushed into that? Like, because now you still have Genji, you still have Greymane, you still have Hanzo. Now, we still have all of them, apparently, as we are going heavy front line here.
Yeah, I definitely do think that. It's just, it was really interesting to see that Team Freedom has, except one game versus Gale Force, which was their first or second series, always picked Lutano's hero. But yeah, they've always been pigeonholed too. They've often been in the second pick position where they're down to just one of those three heroes. Team 12 pushed, not Team 12, their last opponents pushed them a little bit on that. Kind of made Lutano play more Greymane, but he showed that he is still highly, highly good on that hero too. And now he gets the pick of the litter right now.
He's only played
four heroes, but one of those is Zeratul and only one game on it. Yeah, so everything is Hanzo, Genji, Greymane.
Yeah, and that's pretty meta right now. And so this is not the style of draft I expected to see. We have a Tyrael, an Uberak, and Dahaka with our first three picks. They're not bad heroes. The one thing that did work out really well for SpaceStation was when they went into multiple games of an Uberak. It complemented their style. It was actually a consistent hero for them last week, and it was actually consistently viable in the way that they wanted to play. We'll see how that plays out as we go here, as we've got ourselves an Arthas ban.
Arthas banned by SpaceStation. They already have their front line. They are happy with the Uberak Dahaka. And as you said, they'll be trying to have some kind of picks, some damage to go along with that Anubarak. But a lot of times that was Greymane picked for them for Casanova. Casanova's Greymane has been kind of off the charts statistically, especially when you look at the rest of SpaceStation and how SpaceStation's kind of been doing. Casanova has been a standout statistical player, and a lot of that revolves around his Greymane play. So that won't be available to them, but we'll see what else he could maybe bring in. We've seen some Falstad from him, maybe a lot of global play.
Yeah, the global play, you know, the last time we saw them on this battleground was when they went double support and they had Karazim on the, or Jay Shrite on the Karazim.
Right.
It didn't quite work out as well. We'll see. One hero that definitely complements Dive and one hero that obviously doesn't like Arthas is Illidan,
Yes.
and Illidan's going to be banned out here from Freedom.
Yeah, there's a fair amount of dive from Team Freedom too, but they still don't want to deal with that Illidan. He also would be another possible global hero for SpaceStation with the Hunt. We haven't seen SpaceStation play meta yet. It's been more Hunt play. So for that, Team Freedom are totally fine with banning out that Illidan. Now SpaceStation, if that was the plan, they've got to go elsewhere.
Yeah, and I really try and wonder where that elsewhere is going to be. Tyrael Greymane is an excellent start. One thing to deal with the potential dive is an Uther can really lock people down as well as give that armor when you come in. When you think about stuns and stuff like that that you're really worried about, so far they don't exist on the side of Team Freedom. So damage-wise, again, we've seen a lot of mage play from Shrite. We've seen a lot of flexibility. We finally get a Genji. It just... Dragon Blade, Divine Shield obviously there. They're going to need a bit more than that, I think. But they are all in with this composition. Nubrak dive, Dahaka flank, Uther complementing that, Genji dive. Are they going to go all in with their composition, you think? Tracer.
I don't... Yeah?
Just make it Tracer to really go crazy.
Team Freedom's just going to take Lucio here, right? Then you've got Sanctification and Lucio to stop, a lot of different dive. Then it's this really fun style of composition where you're basically relying on things like Isolation, Cocoon, as trying to take away those big heroic abilities or stall them out, force them to be a little bit later so that in that interim, in that little bit of time that you can get the kill. But yeah, they're definitely going to need some other big damage to go along with that to make sure they can get that kill.
Collusion's played a lot of Karazim.
He has.
And successfully well. He's 5-0 on Karazim.
He is.
So let's see if we can make it 6-0. Tychus, of course, the tried and true backline approach. You can go Relentless Soldier if you're afraid somebody's going to dive on you. Get that armor if you get stunned. And then, oh, by the way, you can go Odin at level 10 to make sure you get even more armor to make sure that you can survive the potential dive style. Greymane, of course, going to be doing okay there. We get a Cassia pick coming out here.
First, Jay Shrita Cassia. Though he's played Genji too, it could be Casanova. Casanova playing Cassia. Not bad at all.
Cass.
The Karazim for me, I could have seen it either way. He obviously offers a lot more with diving along with the rest of the team. They already have Sanctification, they have shielding for that too. I think that Lucio would have been another possible pick for them just because they would have had then a long time where they would have been hard to touch. But in this instance, Cassia might cause problems for Collusion now playing Karazim. Blinds are there. She can try to mitigate some of that damage because of her avoidance. It's another melee hero, which charge strikes and ball lightning. Might be tough there, but I think it'll be ball lightning.
Ball lightning seems likely.
Yeah.
We haven't seen a lot of success with Valkyrie. You can try and isolate a hero, so there's
Right.
definitely some counterplay, I think, with this draft. So we'll see what happens.
Now, what do you think of the drafts? Any favored to you looking at the drafts?
I mean, you go tried and true. I think the Cassia is good because you have double auto attack hero between Greymane, Tychus, and as you said, even throwing Karazim into that mix. So you can mitigate a lot of that damage. And again, if they dive in, the problem is if you use that ball lightning and it falls under a Sanctification, then it might not seem as powerful. See how it plays out as we move in here.
The game is afoot. SpaceStation trying to stop Team Freedom. It's no tall task. Or it is a tall task, so let's see if they can do it. Casanova playing Genji, Tomster on Uther, Equinox on a Nubarak, Jay Shrita will be playing that Cassia, and Jason on Dahaka.
And on the right side in red is going to be Team Freedom, as it will be Zugrug on Tyrael, Lutano on Tychus, switching things up a little bit, as we will get Collusion on Karazim, Nasmus on the Mouthail, and Yoda over on the Greymane this go-round.
Lutano's just trying to open up his hero pool, you know, prove that he can change some things up. But that is an interesting adjustment to see for this team.
It's been all Yoda pretty much on Tychus. He's been the only Tychus player.
Because it is usually Tychus Genji, Tychus Hanzo. Maybe it's when it's Tychus Greymane. Well, we'll have to keep track.
So far so good in the eyes of Team Freedom as they've got a bot lane push here. It's going to be responded to by Cassia and Uther. They'll deal with a lot of this push. And of course, as you said, the blinds, Greymane, Karazim dive, not as strong.
It's especially with Malthael here in the bottom lane, and using Lutano's Tychus as a solo for now against Jason. I wonder what kind of rotations we're going to see. You know, here it favors to have those 3 in the bottom because, as you can see, Greymane and Karazim can rotate out and be ready for an immediate giant pickup.
First tribute will be bottom middle. As we see Casanova, they're going to make a little bit of a late rotation, but they're definitely coming in strong. Casanova not able to make it. Equinox and team a little bit late. I mean, good idea, but when it's Greymane and Karazim, obviously a little bit slower than if it's one or the other, or a little bit quicker than if it's one or the other. So they had the right idea, just wrong composition to try and pull it off again.
Yeah, nobody took that watchtower back, so at least there's some vision for rotations there for SpaceStation keeping a hold of that watchtower. Freedom continuing with the plan. Send the mercenary squad straight to mid to pick up the bruisers there too, hitting double lane pressure.
I mean, they're just looking for heavy invades.
Yeah.
Dahaka will brush stalker in, but Zugrug's going to join the team over here. Right now, SpaceStation has taken this.
They get the camp. And that is going to help Yoda in a lot of danger as Casanova dives forward using the deflect, hoping he can get the kill there. Nasmus just barely comes in time with the Swift Strike already used. Casanova and the rest of SpaceStation have to back off, but they still achieve the camp steal.
This aggression is something that Team Freedom is not exactly used to.
No.
I mean, teams will try and play with them, and then Team Freedom kind of gets a lead, and then they chip away at you. But SpaceStation right now, I mean, that is that was 2 within the first 2 minutes.
And they still have their camps up so they can get their own.
See how this plays out in the long run. Right now, Jay Shrite thwarting off the Karazim Malthael. But as it stands, Dahaka's in the top lane, which means the Siege camp could potentially push in that top lane. Team Freedom has to make a decision on how hard they want to defend top versus how hard they want this tribute.
It's been really cool to see SpaceStation use that strong dive of Anubarak and Genji, and they're using it again here. Yoda has already taken damage. Casanova dives in. The rest of the team there to get him out. The follow-up from Nasmus and Collusion. Are you kidding me right now?
If it's one, that's cool. But it's both at the same time,
Insta
that's
body
sick.
blocks? Oh, man.
That looked good.
That looked awesome. Just together, skillful. Team Freedom, they're responding to the aggression of SpaceStation. They expected it.
Not too bad there either way. Nasmus trying to take care of the Giants in the top lane. And so far, SpaceStation's done well to at least defend in the meantime. Zugrug and team try to channel this first tribute.
Casanova goes over the side, stops it. Uses a Swift Strike, though, to do so. Has to play a little bit more passively. Tomster taking a heavy fire there as Jason comes in with his Dahaka. Tomster and Jason both pretty darn low. It's just reliant on the Uther heals. He keeps up Dahaka for the moment, but as he falls, Tychus does too. Casanova starting those resets, gets 2 for the 1.
Oh, rip. Tomster did not have any type of heal available to give himself some armor. Might have been able to live through that. His health bar was pretty low. But either way, I mean, that's a trade that if you're SpaceStation, you have to be happy with. I mean, getting kills early against a team like Team Freedom, who, as you said, have the second fewest deaths per game in North America right now. I mean, it's a good way to start. Make Team Freedom uncomfortable. And right now, their draft and their playstyle, I think, is accomplishing that. They're not necessarily doing anything to gain a huge lead, but I think this is everything that if you're SpaceStation that you want.
It is enough just to slow momentum of Team Freedom pretty substantially. Freedom are used to teams going up against them in rotations, just head-to-head, and then Freedom have these awesome change-ups that always put them ahead of their opponents. Something that we see a lot on Sky when they'll go to the Bruisers instead of Giants, and then get a push up in there. So for SpaceStation to start as early as the first camp invade, then invading the next one, they're just not allowing Team Freedom to ever get that going. What it does for SpaceStation is keeps them close to Team Freedom, so they get lots more opportunities to fight over these things like tributes.
Speaking of tributes, it looks like SpaceStation's willing to forego this one. They might get a little bit of poke in from Casanova, make sure they get... Yeah, there we go. They get max value out of the Cassia, who's staying in the bottom lane. Lutano trying to body block. But the more time you buy, the more you get with this push here, and the more you're getting the lead. SpaceStation right now is taking a bit of a lead, and SpaceStation's okay with giving that up. The next tribute is either going to be top left or bottom left, and they know that it's on a favorable side. So they actually just won out in that trade in the long run.
They kept one person top, one person bot, and they stalled out while they got some structure damage in the mid with the bruisers. Team Freedom sent everyone in, making sure that they could get that tribute. They were behind in the tributes. They wanted to make sure they could get that, and that does eke SpaceStation ahead in their experience on the road to level 10 and heroic abilities. Now they're going to set up for more camps, so are Team Freedom, looking to make sure that they can get their heroic abilities in time as well.
Both teams approaching 10. We see 10 here first. It will be the Cocoon, Dragon Blade, everything else pretty standard. It's just a matter of, do we get the Dragon Blade? Or excuse me, do we get the Ball Lightning?
Still a question. It's Divine Shield this time for the Soother. Definitely like to see that, considering you've got the Uther Genji. They're going to go for the attack here as Equinox goes in. The blind is down. They've got a drag. Tyrael is just held down there as SpaceStation executed on the tribute spawning in 18 seconds until he's back.
Wow. I mean, that was picture perfect in terms of team coordination. Again, all things that you pointed towards SpaceStation doing as much as anybody, having the ultimate team. That's a long distance spend right there. Having the most players per kill, and that is what they do. This is, again, last week they fell, but they looked better than they did in their previous series, and things seem to be going better here in the early part.
Oh, Jason hits his ISO and drag, the grenade and run and gun.
Just enough. Just enough.
SpaceStation feels better. Like, they feel more coordinated. Obviously, the shot calling has been really nice to see, and we had felt that in their second series last week when they were playing, I think it was Tempo Storm that they played, and that's when they were able to get the one win on Shrines. Oh yes, because you were talking about potatoing, but here it is again. Tormented Souls was lightning quick on the uptake. It doesn't matter though, Casanova gets in, gets the dive, gets out. He was really quick on the uptake though to have that Tormented so he could raise strike out, but man, there's just going to be too much lockdown from that comp of SpaceStation.
I almost wondered if they would use Cocoon there and then set up stuns afterwards. They didn't have to, and when you have Genji and Cassia there, and Cassia has insane burst damage when you get the Fend going, so now we've got a tribute on a favorable spot for SpaceStation, 13 close. That's why we saw the priority for the Siege Camp, to mitigate some of the push there, since they're not affected by the curse, and they're going to try and do even more by taking the boss on their side to, again, mitigate the damage.
Yeah, but Dahaka's been left at the tribute. SpaceStation recognizing this, they're going to head in, they check it out, they see it. Curse grabbed. SpaceStation willing to come up and fight it out for this. The Cocoon goes down. It's on Tyrael, J-How.
It's going in. Dragon Blade is there, and they are locking down Tychus as he goes down, as well as Kerzine. They are ripping through everybody. Casanova is straight going off right now.
Casanova just wrecked Team Freedom on that Genji.
Wow.
I have to say, I'm so happy to see him return to the range roll between his Greymane and that Genji play. I'm sold, my friend. SpaceStation gets the curse, they head up, they know exactly where Team Freedom's going to go, they stop them from taking the boss, this sets them up for a possible double boss play, the minions take out that fort at the top, could try to push along with this too, and they send Jason back out to push the rest.
When you pictured SpaceStation coming into the season here, this is what you would expect from this roster. It hadn't panned out this way, but here in Game 1 against Team Freedom, so far, the first 10 minutes in, this is everything that you would expect, and it is looking good. Got to keep it up, though, but they have a really good start in place.
Yeah, it is an important thing to remember that this is a battleground choice for SpaceStation. They wanted to go to Cursed Hollow. I don't think we see too much Freedom on Cursed. Just one game on that, too, so it's a lot more favor to SpaceStation. They knew they were going to be the map choice for the first game, so they are responding appropriately, but their draft felt pretty responsive. You know, they had the Genji later on. They made sure that they had the front line control. They had the Dahaka and they had the Anubarak. And as we've seen before, Anubarak for SpaceStation, it works. It works.
Right now, SpaceStation is giving Freedom a taste of their own medicine. They got the boss in. They knew they could get keep wall off the boss. They rotated towards mid keep wall. Took the entire keep wall because they bought themselves time with that boss. They rotated out. They did even more. And that boss, all the while, forced the response from Team Freedom to respond middle to try and not give up so much. Now with that keep being a little bit damaged, as we get later into the game, you take another team fight like you just did, that's game over. So everything that SpaceStation did, every single step that they took was progress towards finding ways to end the game. This is really looking good for them.
Loving seeing both Simplicity and SpaceStation come in today and bring it to the more higher favored teams, showing the progress that they have been making the past few weeks of HGC Part 1. Team Freedom goes to the top, trying to push down some structures, thinking that it's very likely that seeing so many people off the map and with the 16 advantage, SpaceStation are getting that bottom boss. They can clear out the other forts. This gives Team Freedom time to catch up with some structures, to catch up in experience, to get to that 16.
Somebody has to hurry because Team Freedom can actually outpush with this composition. Okay, I was going to say, I'm surprised they didn't hold one. They had such a head start. I mean, you eventually could give up a keep in game, but if you were able to force and show on the wall, you could almost force a response out of SpaceStation before you heart that.
Yeah, especially since a lot of SpaceStation was showing, or I think all of them.
Yeah.
But for here, Team Freedom will play the safe game, continue to defend, use that Odin to siege down that boss. They don't lose out in the keep.
Equinox is going to go in. He's going to look to get the cocoon. They might try and get another kill here. I keep minimum, but fight's going to be brought to them. Team Freedom coming back at him.
Goes out. The cocoon once again used on Tyrael. They're going to drag as soon as he pops out of that.
That keep is so low.
Tormented Souls was already used. Odin 2, Odin's done. SpaceStation willing to stick around. It's still half a level till Team Freedom gets 16.
Yeah, this is going to be keep down. First keep down. And again, as this game plays out, these are win conditions. That boss obviously on a long enough cooldown, but the fact that Team Freedom only has one tribute to this point, you can play through. If you get this tribute, if you're on the side of SpaceStation, you can now just play out the long game. I don't think that's what they're going to do because they're so far ahead if they can get 20. There's a lot of options for SpaceStation to just keep control of this game.
Top boss in 1:30. And thankfully for Team Freedom, that's where they pushed that fort down. So that might be a place where they could get an opportunity back. They're party bushing it up. Chinese bush meta here in North America.
But Equinox, everybody's so tempted to clear the minions, right? It's like, all right, I'll clear the minions. But what do you really get out of it, right? This gives you that just complete map control. You can stay there. You know that Team Freedom is hiding somewhere. So what purpose would it serve at this point to clear the minions? So you just hang out. This is smart play. You have catapults in bottom lane. Team Freedom can't wait forever. You don't have to push waves out. That is the #1 thing that anybody playing this game should know, is you don't have to clear. Just because the minions are there doesn't mean you have to attack them.
Something sneaky is going on.
They're going to show bottom to feign a back door and force a response from Team Freedom potentially.
That's the show. Freedom spent quite a while watching that point, a time where SpaceStation were soaking a couple of different lanes, and they go down to the bottom. SpaceStation does not get Team Freedom to buy it. They do not take the bait. They're going to have to. They're going to have to go bot because of that, and top boss should be right about now.
This is, if you're Team Freedom, you have to make this play. You have to fight on this. Your win conditions are few and far between. Fighting on the boss might be your best chance. Malthael, however, was forced to clear the catapults, all calculated by SpaceStation. Equinox zoning out. Might have had vision there on Zugrug, I believe. They're just going to walk out. They know that the threat is there of the boss.
So they know that Nasmus is bottom. As far as boss control, I mean, there's sort of the fish in the barrel style when you have Casanova's Dragonblade, but having Holy Ground for Team Freedom is a really big deal. Sanctification too. They're going to start this.
Yeah, they waited till catapults were cleared out just enough. And now they're coming up to look for a fight, trying to get the ultimate throw pit going. The boss halfway. Zugrug zoning out, but the tongue has landed on Tyrael.
Oh, the tongue grabbed him now. Nasmus is going to go in. The fight way more important to Team Freedom as they use Sanctification, abandoning the boss, looking for the kills. Zugrug locks in Equinox, and with the damage done by Lutano, by Yoda, they will take him down. But Casanova's in there deep with the Divine Shield. Cassia falls too. The Odin peppering down all of SpaceStation. And they'll find themselves adjacent.
He's trying to backdoor. Daka's trying to backdoor. Okay, he held. He moved a little bit towards there. And maybe he was just clicking on his way out trying to save himself. But this is a major play for Team Freedom. They have a curse. They'll have a boss. They might try and end off this. It might be their best chance. It also might be SpaceStation's best chance to just try and get camps. Keep the bottom lane pushed out, keep the mid lane pushed out, and then just hard defend top. They need 20 here. Dahaka potentially could be soaking that bottom lane to get that bottom push, but as it stands, they have to play extremely safe here.
Yeah, Freedom gonna go back just to tap. But the Giants will be on the core. There's going to be some minions there to help out with that.
We got double boss play?
Boss at
It
the top,
is. It
yep.
just spawned. The bottom boss just spawned.
So they don't get as much done with this curse, obviously, but with their keep already be down in the bottom and 20 so close for SpaceStation as they've respawned, seems like they're just going to use this time where SpaceStation are defending and not wanting to fight without 20 to make sure that they don't have a boss against them with no keep in that lane.
It does take away potential win conditions away from SpaceStation, which is a really big deal, right? So at this point, SpaceStation, without the boss being there, their win condition is to get 20 and then get a curse. And as it stands, by the time you get 20 and get that next tribute, if you're SpaceStation, Team Freedom will have an opportunity. But SpaceStation might be trying to get the fight here.
They have that 20. Jason goes in. ISO does not connect, but the drag does as Nasmus goes into Insta-Tormented Souls. This time the Cocoon's on him. As he comes back out, the Ball Lightning jumping around between the team. Casanova in the back with the Dragon Blade as the Sanctification buys time for Freedom at the moment. Beautiful palm from Collusion on that Odin, but Team Freedom are not out of the woods yet,
They're not out of the woods. Ball Lightning has Yoda almost down. He's going to go. Casanova is going off again. He has that. The Dragon has become him. 2 members are down. They're going to turn their eyes towards the core here with 2 members down and catapults on the core. SpaceStation looking to take game number 1.
Man, that Infinite Lightning coming in and paying off in droves for SpaceStation as Team Freedom did their best to stick together. They had the Sanctification, but after the fact, Jay Shrita just bouncing that back and forth between the team. Equinox goes down. That's 1 kill as Team Freedom are keeping everyone from SpaceStation off the core, but with Malthael going down and Casanova continuing to pop off on Genji, this is looking like a SpaceStation game.
It could be. Collusion is doing everything he can. 50% and falling. Shrite gets the blind in. 40%. Casanova's isolated on the top side. Shrite has to make sure not to take any of that keep damage. And SpaceStation has come out here in game number 1. They dominated that game. Except for that one team fight, they dominated all aspects of that game.
Starting right from the get-go, when Team Freedom were like, oh, we've got our tri-lane in the bottom. We're just gonna happily go get our Giants. You will get yours too. We will have this nice standoff as expected over a tribute. We'll see you then. And SpaceStation says, what if we didn't? What if we didn't do that?
They walked in. They were late to the party on the Siege Giants. They were not late to the party when it came to the Bruisers. And they walked in, they took it, they thwarted off quite a bit of their, almost got a takedown in the middle of that. But they came in, and at that moment, it set the tone. It set the tone for the way that entire game would go. Credit to Equinox, though. Anubarak seems to be his new hero, right? It seems that we've seen him on a lot of tanks, a lot of heroes so far, but last weekend, he started to settle in on Anubarak. Here they come right out of the gates. Their first 2 picks, they go Anubarak. And it seems to be working out for them, despite everything else that you would say, all right, this maybe not be ideal, but when it comes to the way that they play, it seems to be working.
Yeah, the Anub is huge, and I don't expect that they will continue to get that, as it's pretty crucial, and they've shown that it's instrumental to them in how highly they're prioritizing in draft. But we'll have to wait and see once we get to the next draft. For now, let's take a look at that last team fight, because there was a lot to unpack there. Jay Howe, why don't you break it down?
Yeah, I mean, right away, we saw the Tormented Souls go out, but the Cocoon came out. And furthermore, Yoda and team on the backside, the Infinite Lightning, by the way, you get cooldown reduction on that whenever it comes in. That's why I saw it again on the core. But Casanova, the Dragon became him. I mean, everybody's so grouped up. Jason has landed so many tongues, but Collusion getting the palm there and everything started to keep them alive. But as you can see, the Ball Lightning,
it's still going.
It was still going.
It's just been going. They took out Tychus, and then it's just set up immediately for the next reset from Casanova. Casanova's Genji play was out of this world. It was so good. I'm not just saying that because he's like a robot or a ninja or something, but I guess he's still from this world. But anyway, it was really good, is what I'm saying. It was pretty darn good.
He's a cybernetic ninja, is that right? Cybernetic?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's good.
It's pretty good.
I mean, he was opportunistic, and that's the thing. That all Genji players are opportunistic, right? Like, you can't just go in. Yes, you can poke. And speaking of poke, the poke that they had on the top right tribute to buy in time, that's when they kind of started to build their lead a little bit. And using those to their advantage by keeping Soak in all lanes, taking that camp and pushing in, those are moments, the Knight invade, and then that push right there really did a lot. And Casanova, finding ways to get those opportunities there. But again, Equinox initiated so much that it looked good.
His cocoons were stellar too. I like my space adjectives for some
For
reason today.
SpaceStation.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I wasn't even trying. Yes. But yeah, his cocoons were really good. Like the Tyrael cocoons did a number, that one at the end, on Nasmus too with Tormented Souls, forcing a lot of people to focus on him. I want to shout out Collusion's palm at the end. That was an awesome palm. No, now Collusion is not.
Lost one.
Yeah, he's not undefeated on his Kharazim anymore, but it was still a great palm.
I want to say, I think Cocoon was used in the team fight in the choke point up near that top middle bush.
Okay.
Cocoon was used, and I'm pretty sure it was cleansed out in the middle of that. It's
With
one
a
of those.
cleansing touch.
Yeah, and I want to go back and watch that. Right, it's so hard to like keep everything up, but I'm pretty sure that happened because I'm like that's a Cocoon moment. That's a Cocoon moment. And then I look up, the timer is just below 60, and I see Unstoppable. I'm like, did he just cleanse that? And that's when I go back and watch that was, I think, a potentially sick play in the midst of like 100 different things going on. It was a really good play.
Yeah, Collusion was even part of making sure that people were getting out of Cocoon. So he was doing his due diligence as that Kharazim.